Present are myself, Commissioners Mills, Benson, Shackleton, Anderson, Hedstrom, Bibi Gadici. No commissioners absent at this point. So first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the February 18th, 2025 agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Motion carries. First item is the welcoming of our newest commissioner.
Hey.
So Alex Bibi Gadici, am I pronouncing that correctly?
You're two-thirds there. Judice is the last part.
Judice.
Yeah, Judice.
Judice, okay.
Judah J. Wait, that's wrong.
It's close. We'll all get there. It's Judice.
Judice.
There you go. Yeah.
Bibi
Got it.
Gadici.
You got it. Perfect.
Okay,
Home run.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Otherwise known as Alex.
Right. There you go.
So Alex is our newest commissioner appointed by the city. Brings great experience, both in other states, including Alaska, as I understand, as well as being a small business owner here right in Grand Marais, which will be, I think, invaluable to the EDA. So thank you very much. All right, next item is approval of the meeting minutes from our January the 21st meeting. You'll find those on pages 3 through 5, and they were provided in the meeting packet. Is there a motion to approve the January 21, 2025 meeting minutes?
So moved.
And seconded?
Support?
And
Great.
I would like to make a comment on
Please.
those beforehand.
Yes.
Just a clarification. So on page 4, there is a comment of Siri Anderson recommending that, that she will assist the CEC with some administrative work. And I would just like that clarified, that that is a personal
Yeah.
effort on your part. That is not a board-approved nor recommended or ask of that. I just want that clarified
Okay.
and amended in the notes. And, thank you for.
Yeah,
as
of
a,
course.
Personally offering your time, but I just want that clarified in the notes.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, with that amendment, are we good with the meeting minutes?
I approve.
Okay. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? And we carry. Moving us on then to the financials. January 2025 financials and payments of the EDA and Superior National at Lutsen Golf Course have been provided in the meeting packet. Commissioner Shackleton, if there's any additional information or anything you want to illuminate for us?
The budget was submitted to the county for approval last year, and they approved our budget submission without changes, and so that's what's in the packet right now. So, looking at that, and as far as the EDA financials for the month of January, if anyone has a chance to look at them, have any questions, we did, Heidi, do you know if what was submitted to the commissioners, does it include the budget versus, if that was updated or not? Or is it?
What was in the packet, the official packet, were not the
Right.
updated financials.
So we do have, so going forward, the monthly budget will be in there. So what I'm looking at right now has that budget number there, so you compare the month of January to what the budget would allow for. I'm not sure if the one you have right now has that, but it looks in line. So, and the cash position for the EDA is healthy, 235 and 35 combined for 265 right now. That would be the EDA. If you want to have any comments on the EDA financials, if not, I'll move on to the golf course.
No questions or
Okay.
comments? No?
So
Golf course.
Superior National operation for January, they're, the pro shop, they're open year round. This is the third year they've done that. Sales are up about 38% over previous years, so it's improving. It's not cash flowing in a positive way, but it helps. Golf course finished position is at 239 in one account, 111 in another account. It's very healthy. It should get us to the beginning of the season without any problems, so. Anybody have questions about the golf course?
Questions? Nope. All right, is there a motion to approve the report out on the golf course, the EDA, and the bill approval status?
I think we accept them, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's,
We accept them, not approve them,
Very
yeah,
good.
accept them.
because they're not
Yeah.
audited.
Okay,
So I move to accept the treasurer's report.
thank you.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are accepted.
Okay.
Thanks, Howard. Okay. So at this point on the agenda is time for public comments, and we would invite anyone from the public that wishes to share their thoughts or insights with the board. Just to remind the commissioners, this is not an opportunity for a debate, but rather just to listen and to take on comments.
Well, sure. I'm Bruce Martinson. I'm the chair of the Schroeder Township Board, and I'm just here to back up Heidi when she talks about the Taconite Harbor strategic plan outline in moving forward. But if you have any questions for me, later, one comment, and that is, of course, as Howard is long overdue, and the Schroeder Township Board supports moving forward. That's all.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, good to see you, Bruce.
Any other public comments? No. Okay. Let's move on to our resolutions then. We'll start with Resolution 2025-8, approving amendments to the employment agreement for Garrett Ekman for services at Superior National Golf Course at Lutsen in 2025. Commissioners might remember from last month that we approved 5 employment agreements. This particular one, the golf course has revisited in light of the significant growth that's been seen in the food and beverage area at the golf course. Year-to-date revenues are up about 100%, and the discussion that we've had with golf course management is to elevate Garrett's position from assistant to full director for food and beverages. You can see some of the additional responsibilities that we pressure tested the golf course in terms of documenting, so it isn't just a loose increase. But the golf course committee recommends approval of this resolution.
I read all of this, and if I look on page 10, it is the agreement, it still says assistant manager and beverage director. Like, am I not looking at the one that's going to be changed? I thought it was going to just be a food and beverage manager, not assistant anymore.
Where do you see the assistant?
Maybe I'm looking at an older version. It's right there. I think
that might
that's
be-
page 11.
Yeah, it is page 11, and that might be
Sorry.
a change that didn't get picked up.
And that's where I started to get confused, like, am I
Sure.
reading this correctly? And then I saw your your descriptive changes,
Right,
but I
right.
didn't see this agreement seem to reflect it.
That might have been a change that they frankly missed.
Or-
They
Go
didn't
ahead.
provide me with an updated version
Oh, okay.
of this.
Because I've
Um,
received
the
a
dates.
version with changes and I believe a new one. So it might be just the wrong one we've got in here, but we can check that.
The golf course committee met with golf manager and staff, and I got to the point where I'm comfortable with the recommendations.
I'm fine with it, this
Yeah.
document doesn't reflect it.
Yeah,
right,
And it's like,
yeah.
what
Yeah,
are,
the recital doesn't refer to it as manager.
right,
yeah.
it doesn't. So, and I just caught that, so then I thought, am I missing other changes that we're expecting to see in here? That kind of made me stop, 'cause I'm
Mhm.
like, am I just confused, or?
Good point.
Other questions or comments?
I move the resolution.
Yeah, and we can replace
Yeah.
this with the correct document, which I have seen. I've seen it before and an after. Please.
Support? Did you make a
Yeah,
motion?
I
Yeah,
did.
support. And then, so I think the confusion is it's assistant manager slash food and beverage director versus assistant manager slash assistant food and beverage director. So double assistant, now it's one
Right.
assistant. Maybe?
Head of food and beverage.
No, no,
yeah.
no, it just says assistant manager and beverage director. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah.
what they were clearing out of. And then that gets me back to, is there anything else in here they didn't update? I don't want to vote for something, like I want to know that we're.
Because mine has a slash there.
Can I also maybe just point out on page 16, in the description of the duties, assistant manager slash food and beverage is crossed out and replaced purely with food and beverage
Food and
manager.
beverage
So there's
manager.
another discrepancy in the
Hmm.
specific job title.
Just food and beverage, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over in here, assistant.
Mhm.
So, it'd be nice if they,
So can we approve with
Yep.
those
Yeah,
changes?
Right.
So-
My
Yeah.
motion to approve the resolution would include necessary minor changes to the wording.
I would support that.
do we know what all those are besides descriptive? I mean, I saw
Can
your.
it be circulated by email and then we vote by email?
I think we can just understand that it'll be corrected and then verified by, maybe an email communication. I think we're kind of on board with what we're talking about. It's not clear that the language is consistent or clear all the way through.
I hear Tracy saying she's not quite on board with it.
Well, we've got this list here, and that means there were changes to responsibilities. I don't know if I quit reading to double check after I got the titling, so I just want to make sure the rest of it is in there, and it's not just a matter of search and replace for assistant versus manager.
Yeah, fair point. And I think page 16 in particular illustrates that it's more than just that, as the Exhibit A list of responsibilities has been reworked.
Mr. President, could I suggest that we request that the independent contractor that the EDA hired to work on this sort of stuff, make those corrections?
Yeah.
Well, certainly, yeah. I guess the only question now is, do we want to vote on this with corrections or punt it until the next meeting, once we have the corrections in front of us and we're more comfortable with it? Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Chair. I think the essence is there. It's just that confusing title, and we are voting to change that title, so it's doubly confusing. But going down to page 16, I think, does clarify the duties, and so then it's just a matter of the language for the title. So, and I think we are all on the same page. This is the food and beverage manager, or director.
So go down after it.
Can I add that
Just
it was
wanna make
clarified
sure
to
that's-
us that to make this change, they were
Oh.
changing the amount of hourly workers, and so there isn't an increase in overall budget, it's a shifting of the budget to this person rather than depending on hourly workers.
Yes, thank you.
So maintaining the budget. I'm in agreement with that idea.
Does this, if we postpone this till our next meeting, does that in any way influence Garrett's ability to get to work on what he needs to do? The pay does not change?
He's the only one doing the work, so that's not going to change. The work will be done by Garrett, but I would question, does it change his paycheck?
Apparently not,
Right.
right? It's
Well,
a
if he's going to
net-
get paid salary or he's going to get paid hourly, will that be the difference here? He's going to continue to be paid hourly?
Mhm.
Or would
He's
he,
currently a salaried employee. and
so
this would
he's currently a
increase
salary employee, just changing his job description with a slight bump in pay?
With the bump, yes.
Okay. So this would prevent the bump in pay until the next meeting, is that correct? Okay.
Retro it?
So
If it's a
retro-
month out, we
Yeah.
retro.
Back pay? Yeah, we could do that.
I don't want to start a thing where we to kind of let these things go. It'd be one thing if it was just a search and replace for a title, but I'm not going to sit here and spend time to make sure that that job description reflects all these items that are listed here. Because I want, it should be what it's supposed to be.
So I'll withdraw my motion and make a request to get us a clean new job description.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm getting a clear signal that we approve this, but not, we need better documentation, so.
Sure, with the
I think
intent
if
of
we-
doing it on a retro basis.
Yeah.
Correct.
If we
Which is fair.
communicate that, I think they should be happy.
Very good.
Yeah, totally support his efforts and what he can do
right.
for the golf course completely. I think it's great direction.
Okay. All those in favor?
There's no motion. Oh, is it? I withdrew the motion.
Or you withdrew a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we'll act on it next month,
No motion required for the homework?
right? Well, I think we just, it's in the minutes, so we
Okay.
will require them to go back and
Done.
clean it up.
Okay. All right, that takes us to 2025-9, approving the listing agreement with SVN Northco for the sale of Superior National Golf Course at Lutzen. You'll find the material on pages 19 through 26. And as you might recall, last month, the EDA approved Resolution 2025-6. That was for professional services with Northco. As you might recall, we went through an RFP and selected Northco. We've now got the listing agreement, generally consistent with what we discussed last month, 6% commission, $200,000 minimum commission, 12-month exclusive listing agreement. And EDA staff and the golf course committee recommends approval. Discussion or questions?
I was in on the meetings, I remain impressed with Frank and his crew. I think they're ready to hit the ground running, and, they ask a lot of good questions, and I think they'll give us a lot of really good advice and counsel over the time here. So I'm, anxious to get them on board and running with it.
Thanks, Howard.
And just,
Commissioner Mills.
just for further context, for new commissioners, there were requests for proposals sent out, and then a selection based on criteria through that, so process I wasn't a part of, but the golf
Yep.
committee was. And then so the Northco rose to the top. And, one thing I'd like to know more about is just if there's any risks. I mean, there is that risk of the sale not meeting our expectations, but that risk would happen regardless
Right.
of who's
Yeah.
doing this. And
Well,
this
and-
company seems to be most capable of meeting our
Yeah.
requirements. So.
Yeah, it's a small fraternity, frankly, nationwide, especially regionally, of golf course sales. Everybody knows everybody, so whether they may have the listing and somebody else may sell, just like a house, but, they'll aggressively try to sell it as well. And our instructions, mostly from me, but I think I've got the sense of the board as well. Our desire is to have a public golf course there that's successful and ongoing, and we take precedence over the financial wherewithal of a buyer to keep it running and improve it over the highest possible selling point. We're not out for all the money, we're out to keep the golf course as a golf course and have it well managed and well maintained, and there as an asset for the community into the future. So that's the sense I've gotten from the board, and that's certainly the sense, and, Frank gets that. You may or may not know, there's a few stipulations that go with the golf course. When the Nelson family gave the land to the golf course, they retained right of first refusal, which the seller, the Northco, is fully aware of. And they also, if the golf course ceased to be a golf course, they have the right of re-entry. In other words, we want it to remain a golf course. If it doesn't remain a golf course, it gets really messy. So that's in everybody's interest, and I think that's, we'll go forward with the full knowledge of that to any buyer, and it is a great asset, and even though it's not highly profitable for the EDA, it still carries its own, and,
Yeah.
does what it's supposed to do.
And I would say that in case there's an algorithm out there that can add this metric to somebody's Facebook page that has a lot of money, it's cheap, actually. Like, you can buy this piece of property for less than a nice cabin on the shore, and it's beautiful, amazing views, and what an asset to leave your family.
But it has to be a golf course. It can't.
Yeah, it's a golf course.
Right,
What,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
generations of grandchildren playing
Oh, yeah,
there.
sure, yeah.
Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, just one clarification. It won't be a public golf course per se.
Well,
Okay, yeah.
it'll be open to the public.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, it won't revert to a private club. Yeah. And, was there more? I don't remember. Yeah, I guess that's where we are.
All right, is there a motion to approve 2025?
I'll forward the motion to approve the resolution.
Second?
I'll support.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Resolution 2025-10, approving a memorandum of understanding between the EDA and Piedmont, independent contractor, to provide small business consulting services in 2025. So I'd refer you to pages 27 through 35. And as I think you'd all be aware, the EDA has an annual consulting agreement with Northland Foundation to provide small business consulting, which has been done terrifically by Pat over the years. We've attached the 2025 agreement for your reference. And of course, Pat has decided to retire after many years of terrific service. And through a search process, including Pat and Heidi and Northland, we have identified a terrific new SBDC consultant in Piedmont. So it's our recommendation that Resolution 2025-10 be adopted, which is a memorandum of understanding between the EDA and Piedmont.
Got questions, but should the motion be on the table first?
Call
I'll
for a
motion in
motion.
favor of that.
Second?
Discussion? So, I'm a little confused, because we have had, this has been a Northland position, and we contract with, Northland contracts with us.
Yes.
So, is this the same as we had with Pat, or different? The same?
It is the
So we had an agreement with
It's just a
you?
little bit more formal.
Oh.
You know, when I started this job, we didn't really think about contracts much,
Right,
but now that things have progressed, it makes sense to do this, and Northland suggested it, and I think it's a nice piece to formalize this with the EDA as well, since for the most part, we work together on
Right.
most stuff.
so, Pete will consult with us, and Northland will reimburse us for the cost then?
That's exactly what happens. We
Yeah.
take and note all of our hours for the month, send
Right.
Northland the invoice. And Mark gets it, Heidi gets it,
Yep.
Peter can have it if he wants it. And Northland approves it, sends it back, sends us a check, and then you pay.
And weren't we getting a little cut on that too?
No, you don't.
No, Howard.
We were going to ask a little bit of cut from you guys.
Let's see.
No, it works pretty well. It's pretty seamless at this point.
Okay, yeah.
They have never not given us the money.
No, I know that, yeah,
That's
it's,
good.
so, sorry to be a little brain dead here, but So in the past, you have used up all your hours by like November, and then they have found money to help pay you through the end of the year?
Typically, this contract shows just how many hours they're contracting with us. I've always, in the 10 years I've done this job, gone over and they found additional hours that other consultants didn't choose.
Right.
They can't guarantee that, but we
Right.
haven't had that happen.
Okay.
So that arrangement is the same going forward with Pete?
What now?
Is that can be the same arrangement with Pete going forward? Same arrangement for Pete going forward, same
Same number of hours,
same budget, same situation?
Yeah.
slight increase in the hourly rate.
The rate per hour went up
Up,
this year,
okay.
but that's about the only difference.
All right,
Okay.
gotcha.
All right, is there a motion to approve
A motion to
2025? And we'll come back to introductions later in the agenda.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Commissioner Shackleton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those, any other discussion? Nope. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, resolution carries. All right, taking us to the last resolution of the day, that's 2025-11, approving strategic planning outline to be used as a tool to solicit proposals from professional consulting firms to facilitate the strategic planning process for the former Taconite Harbor Energy Center site in Schroeder Township. That was a mouthful. Anything you wish to add to that, Heidi?
Not other than the fact, thank you, Bruce, for being here and supporting this and being involved and looking at the outline prior to the EDA seeing it. And I think it's, being that the site is located in Schroeder Township, it's important that you're involved as chair of the supervisors. So thank you very much. And I just wanted to also add that I don't know if the EDA ever saw the press release about the grant, so I just stuck it in the packet. One of 6 communities in the state that's going through this transition from mostly coal power plants. So it's a big deal, and it's quite an honor to be working on it and very exciting, and I'm looking forward to this process of going through strategic planning.
So $1 million, great.
No.
No, that
Not
includes
for the planning.
Yeah.
200 for the planning,
All right.
800 for the transfer station.
When we put this application together, Teresa and Mike and a group of us, Teresa thought it was better to put them together. I would have just kept them separate because they're not really joined.
Related, yeah.
But they did, and then so it comes back as a big number, and if you're not watching carefully,
Yeah.
and you don't realize that the amount and share of it very understandably went to the waste
Sure.
transfer thing. But to get 200 grand for something we've been trying to work for the last few years, very hard, and I know you weren't here, but I personally spent a lot of my time trying to get this, and the fact that we need a very serious project manager, and that to me is the thing that's missing in this whole descriptive. And this is a long-term project. So I would like you to kind of explain, because I'm really concerned about what I'm seeing here at all. I've been to your township to meet, I've been to Tofty to meet and discuss this, because it's Schroeder, but I think Tofty, the whole West End, as Bruce understands, really gets affected by this hugely. And we've already met with Minnesota Power, Elite, or whatever they're called now. We went down and met with them. We realized that Cleveland Cliff is a big issue for us, and they have not come to the table yet. I'd like for you to give, I didn't include me in this, so I'd like a high level of how you got to this, because I'm not sure I understand it as far as timeframes and fully encompassing some of the issues that are before us.
The outline?
Yeah, like just high level it for me.
Yeah, I think page 40 might be the place to
Okay.
focus on, which is really the approach over the next several months.
The outline was created with, mainly from talking with Tamara Lowney, who has been through this process already in Cohasset with the Itasca EDC. So she suggested a phased approach, so that's why you see the phased approach. She's been through it already in her community. That's pretty much why it's a phase. And this is just a document to guide the actual drafting of an RFP.
Right.
And then the RFP would be presented to the Taconite Harbor Committee to look at the actual document before it goes out.
I guess my first thought then, I just thought, maybe I'd hear something that would make me not make any more comments. The time frame to me is extremely unrealistic for a project this big. And some of those other communities that we've been reading about and looking at, from Becker to over by Stillwater and all of those, they're replacing and looking for an energy solution contrary to coal anymore. That's not necessarily what we're looking for in Taconite Harbor at all. And we have a lot of people at the table who aren't at the table yet, including Cleveland Cliffs. And is it Elite? What are they now? They got bought out. I want to reference them.
They call them
correctly.
Minnesota Power.
Oh, now they're back.
No, that's just what I call them.
Call them, okay, whatever. Yeah, I saw it in documents.
Minnesota
so I-
Power got bought.
Elite bought
I think
Minnesota
Cleveland Cliffs
Power.
is still Cleveland Cliffs.
But, they've made it perfectly clear to us, at least before, that they're only going to sell, and they can't give this land. To me, that's a big issue to think through. So we got to get everyone at the table. We have to identify some of the issues, not just the possibilities, which I just don't think fits into this time frame realistically. And we need also help, I think, in identifying the possibilities. I've heard so many people in the last few years in our community give me ideas what they think could happen here, but I don't think they're very broad-reaching. And I don't think they come close to the potential of what we could do. And I spend a lot of time reading around the other parts of the country about what other, the focus hasn't been as heavy on Minnesota, and some other parts of the country have really done more, and some of the issues other communities have had aren't ours, like retraining necessarily, which has been heavy for Wyoming and some parts in the East Coast, or access to broadband has been a huge stumbling block for a lot of these communities. That's not ours. But I do think we need help with possibilities too, and that's where I think this part of the planning stage, why we're hiring somebody for $200,000, is to get a high-level project manager who can look at keep a lot of, balls bouncing at the same time. But there's a lot to that before we'll ever get to any kind of planning, I think. Identifying issues, identifying possibilities. And we have to bring in, I think, put a ring around Taconite Harbor that gets us identifying stakeholders, which includes Lake County.
So am I understanding it correctly that you want to use the $200,000 to hire a project manager to handle this process?
Exactly. That's why we asked for it to begin with. That was the
Oh, okay,
intent of
because I was
this.
totally unaware of that was the reason. I
Yeah.
thought it was for strategic planning.
Well, it gets to that point, but that's what we want. I mean, that's part of strategic planning, is all these things. There's no way in 6 months we're going to have a plan of what to do with that land, not even close. We haven't even gotten key partners to the table to tell us what it would take to play ball with us, including Cleveland Cliffs. And I don't see that happening in a real tight time frame like this, nor the time we can have to get our community at the table to think of the possibilities.
Was the rest of the EDA aware of that was the case?
I assume so. We
Of
talked about
hiring
it.
an actual project manager?
It was my understanding that we were hiring basically, strategic planning. So at the end of,
Your team, yet to be determined, but
Yeah.
that would be the output of strategic plan.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end, that's when the project manager, phase 3, number 9, comes into play more.
Well, I think that leads to that is strategic planning. I just think the timeline here is unrealistic when you can't start planning when you don't even know who all your stakeholders are and what their issues are going to be, and what the possibilities are too. Because what I've heard, the voices in our own community, they've been way too limited about what we could potentially do, and I want the time spent to bring in the possibilities for people to examine more of what we can do with that property. And even, it's a lot of property. I don't even know how much of it we would even utilize. We haven't even defined that. That's where I think we need I don't consider, Heidi's got a lot to do. I don't consider that something that she can spend all of her time. She spend a lot of time on it, but that's where I think we need someone. To me, that was why we were getting a project manager, was to help in all of this, all the things you have listed here. But this is big.
I agree.
Sorry, go ahead.
I raised similar concern. I think the timeline is way too fast for what's proposed, and it didn't. I didn't have the sense, and I don't know, and I don't know anything. I don't know enough. I did go there today and walk around to get a on the ground site feel for it, but and of course I've been driven by it for 50 years, but I think there's a lot of, I think we want to blow up the amount of what could be possible there, and the time to get the money and all that thing doesn't seem, grants aren't 3 months processes. And I love that we want to make something great happen here, and that'll be big for the community and all the stakeholders. I did suggest several things that I shared that we can make sure everyone has. If we like the University of Minnesota has a department that is funded to support projects like this, and they will help us with the grant writing process and thinking about it, and it's what they do, so they can bring value add. And I suggested one group, and I understand from talking to Heidi today that in the way she was imagining it, we were going to solicit groups that would potentially lead the process, like the group that I suggested, which was Strong Towns. I don't know if you're familiar with their work, but they do some interesting things, and they have a 2-year process that they do for something like this. So just longer than 9 months.
Commissioner.
Yeah, and I agree that the schedule is aggressive. I'm not one to say we need to stick to the schedule, but I just like seeing the 3 phases. I think they're very well identified as far as phase 1, identify stakeholders, right? That's exactly what you were saying, Mayor Benson, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was a 2-year process, but I liked having these goals set out for us to get moving on. Aside from the timeline, do board members see problems within the phases as far as order of operations or scope or anything like that? Because personally, I thought it was, I was impressed, and yes, the timeline was aggressive, but let's go get them, let's do it. So that didn't.
Yeah, and I had
determine.
asked Heidi to include an element of time in each of these phases, because what I would not support is something that's just open-ended and goes on forever.
Sure.
Because that is a mistake in the opposite
Sure.
direction.
Yep.
Are these times right? Probably not. Will they adjust when we talk to professionals in this space who really know how long these will take? Most likely they will. But we ought to work against some timeline.
Yes.
When would we solicit proposals for these professional consulting firms? Can we start that now, or are we going to want to get further along with the outline work?
I think what I heard is the group is going to get together and develop the RFP. And I've been kind of hung up on the
It's just a guide.
guide, yeah.
Guiding
I've been
document.
hung up on the project manager description. It's really not. I mean, when we first got into this, looking at the money that was available, knowing that we wouldn't have the resources to do all this kind of work in-house, we were looking at, and there's, a few years ago, there were firms out there that did, and maybe Siri is right, the university has people like that, but there's firms out there that would be a consultant to us, that would guide through the process, and maybe that's what you mean by project manager, but, you know, the consultant would help us through all this, and then also be, at the back end, the consultant to, when the vision is somewhat gelled, then be the consultant to find the resources to do whatever we end up collectively wanting to do. Because it'll, you know, the 200,000 is a drop in the bucket of what it will take to enact any vision of Dak Harbor. I'm a little confused too. I mean, I don't want to get all the land owned by Minnesota Power tied up in with the footprint of the plant itself, because the land, in a lot of ways, is just ancillary to, I mean, it's nothing to do with the power plant, they just happen to own a lot of land. But, you know, the footprint of the power plant and the economic activity and the business that happened there and the employment, I mean, that's what the community's missing, is those 30 high-paying jobs, the tax revenue coming off that power plant. That has disappeared, and as I understand the coal-dependent communities, the grant monies is to help replace the loss of that economic activity and employment. So I think that, in my mind, is what wants to guide us going forward as we hire this consultant or reach out to find a consultant.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, and I don't think I'm saying or trying to say anything really different than we've all said, but the timeline, and you're right,
Oh,
you have to have a timeline, but this one just, I don't, with all the people at play and knowing how real life works, is not practical. And I want to overemphasize how much I want outside help in identifying where we can take this. We always lend to go with what we know. And one thing we learned, thanks to Visit Cook County, is we have 81% of our economy based on tourism. This may be our one opportunity to finally bring some diversity to our economy. And we have an opportunity to take another segment of our county and our area and make it, as you're saying, Howard, a good economic piece again for us. And it's a dot, which I've said multiple times, it's a dot with a circle around it. So we've got Lake County in on this too. It's a bigger stakeholder than just us. And that's all good, but I just think we have to recognize the time and energy it will take. And that's where a project manager who, you know, I've worked with lots of them over the years. It doesn't matter if it's a tech project, whatever it is, they're there to set timelines, to keep those timelines in knowing what's slipping against something else, and just keep everything moving. And that's what we want, and that's what we've been missing. Like you were saying, Howard, we tried with some of these other agencies who are there for this purpose, and they're vesting their time on these coal-based communities, but we didn't have the money. And now we finally got a grant for the money to hire them, and that's why we did this.
So you would wish that we hire this professional now rather than later, is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why we asked
Right,
for this
right.
money, to lead us right now in this
Yeah.
process. And I think everything that you've got in here is great, but that's what we were, it's not for, then we'll probably need more money and more whatever, as things go, but this is to get us started right off the bat.
Well, Peter and Commissioner Mills, you were in the grant implementation meeting with the state, with the provider of the funds. I was not, I don't believe that they said that we could use these funds to hire someone.
That's new to me then, because that's what we were applying for.
Yeah.
That's completely different. And I'd like to, I guess now that we're having this conversation, until I read your notes today, I was unaware that meeting happened. I've been one of the key people at the table for this. And if you guys met January 17th, nobody put me on that meeting. I'm not looking at you or anything, but it's like, wow, okay. And I wasn't involved in any of this process either.
It
Yeah.
was the state who hosted the meeting, not us.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I caught that. That's what I mean. I'm not
I mean,
here to, you know.
However, and I was deeply involved early on and then kind of handed it off to others, moving forward. But clearly, in my mind, it was, the money would be for a consultant to help guide through the whole process. And Bruce, we were in some early meetings, and I don't even know how many years ago now, but that was the understanding then. Tamara was there too, and if that has changed, that's kind of news to me. And I don't know,
No, my recollection from that meeting with the state was more operational and less about the constraints, about how the money would be spent. It would be the steps taken necessary to actually get the reimbursements. But what restrictions do you understand there to be?
Well, I used to work with the Energy Transition Office Director and several of the other people who are involved in the project, and it's just always been my understanding that that was not the case. I could be wrong, so definitely talk to Carla Vita and our grant, Mike, our grant contact, and clarify to make sure.
Okay.
But I never once thought that was the case, and so I'm very confused. This is news to me, so I
Well,
could.
in our meetings before with Carla, she was aware that that was an issue for us, not having that resource to move it forward, and knew that's why we were.
so if not.
And
a
I am in
consultant-
constant contact
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Carla.
I mean,
Yeah.
if not a consultant, then how would we spend the 200 grand? Maybe if they give us 200 grand, what do
What
we
were they
do with it?
thinking we were going to spend it on, right?
Yeah,
On a
Is there a
strategic,
difference between
to
consulting
create
firm
a
and
strategic
project
plan.
manager?
yeah, but then, so it really, that means you're hiring somebody to help with that whole process then, correct? Or is this be in your?
There may be different facilitators,
Yeah,
but obviously I misunderstood, so I'll have to go back to the state and clarify what we can spend the money on.
yeah. I mean, was your understanding that you, as our director, would take on this work?
No,
No, okay.
no.
Way too
Commissioner Mills?
much.
Yeah, that was our analysis quite a few years ago. It's like, no, we can't do this. So,
So, Resolution 2025-11, it says approving strategic planning outline to be used as a tool to solicit proposals from professional consulting firms to facilitate the strategic planning process for a former Taconite Harbor Energy Center site in Schroeder Township. And so that seems pretty direct and clear to me. It feels like the biggest rub is the timeline, but then maybe also just the understanding of who's doing what, and to what capacity. So if we need to clarify that more, or if we want to amend the timeline, but it would be great if we can find resolution today.
A couple things from my standpoint. We can put TBD on the timeline, but
Yeah.
recognize that we're going to need a timeline. And whether it is an individual project manager or a consulting firm or some other form of team, that is what the RFP will be seeking, to Commissioner Mills's point. And this is the first step in getting to that RFP. So if directionally, we think we need to get the right stakeholders at the table, gather the right data, do the right planning, that can at least inform what the RFP looks like, so we're not going off in the wrong direction. So this has been a good discussion, but we can move this forward. Next time, we can see a draft RFP.
well, and I think I heard Heidi say, or Bruce, that if we approve this, then we'll go to the townships and help develop the RFP. Is that correct?
No?
No?
Why would we?
What did I hear?
Well, that would be going to the townships and putting that stakeholder crew together. That would be
Yeah.
part later.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we'll-
But yes, the committee, because the EDA
Yeah.
has its own Taconite Harbor Committee, they would be assisting
Okay.
developing, not all the townships, but certainly we can do that
Yeah.
if that's what the EDA wants to do. But
Right.
I thought that it was the committee's role to do this sort of thing.
Okay, well, I mean, other people can be invited to the committee work. So, and I don't think we have to back up and start over again. I think we can keep moving forward with that process. And in the meantime, you can clarify with Carla or whoever, you know, what actually can we use the money for? And then, you know, that will help define how we write the RFP as well. Or let them see our RFP and approve it or make edits to it. I mean, it's they're there to help us, so, and they've been, you know, when I was more involved, they were pretty helpful and answered all the questions, so it seems like we're got a path forward.
Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, I agree with Howard, and I also just want to applaud Heidi for jumping right in, right
Yeah.
out of the gate, and tackling this, because it's a big animal that we've been wrestling with for many years. And I also want to just, Heidi, thank you for reaching out to someone who's been through it, and leaning on that resource, because I think we can learn a lot that way, and I'd encourage you to continue to do that, and
Could I just add to that?
Yeah.
Carla Vida was the person who suggested I reach out to Tamara Lowney. So
Oh.
I have been following
Yeah.
her guidance at the state level throughout this whole process. So this is not just willy-nilly. And if you see at the bottom as well, Mike is our Minnesota Power rep, who has been in contact with me constantly. And then Bruce as well. So
Yeah. Well,
Can I make a
it doesn't feel willy-nilly to me, so that's why I'm just thanking you for going after it. Forgive me for not thinking of this before, but, in other projects, whether it's the county's capital improvement plan or other, strategic planning or what have you, oftentimes the consultant will create the timeline, and they maybe have a better understanding of what's realistic. So maybe we can eliminate that and just, you know, lean on the consultant for that. And, yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's basically one of the key parts of a project manager, is to set
Yeah.
those timelines once you identify what you're working on and who's involved and all of that. So that, you're probably right, would solve itself.
But it should be a requirement, and it'd be a natural
Yes,
one, but.
we can put that in the
Yeah,
RFP.
yeah, yeah.
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 So Bruce said it.
Yep.
Yes, Bruce?
Yeah, I think, Commissioner Mills said right on. I think the consultant or project manager, they would, define the, timeline. I would think that site planning may be too aggressive, that should be, longer, but there's no reason why you have to stick to a, particular, timeline. Delays, come. But one thing is to stress, in a sense, does matter, move forward. There are 11, coal plants, that have been, closed, and I shouldn't say closed. Only a couple have been closed, and the rest are going to be closed in the future. But we were the very first one to close, but according to Carla, Vida, of the 11, we're at the very, very end as far as planning. Everyone else, all the other 10 are way ahead, and they're giving money to these communities. They got the strategic plan completed right now. They're giving money to them. The plant's still open. But we need that strategic, plan done. Timing is of the essence.
Well, that's why we've been asking to get this money, so we could get the right people to the table to help us do it, Bruce. We've been working on this now for a couple years, and this has been our stumbling block till we got this grant.
So can we, do you think, are you comfortable with the outline if we get rid of the timeline, or?
The outline is, it seems to me like that piece of it doesn't really fit, because the person is going to say what actually needs to happen with the things that they do.
The consultant?
Yeah. It's not just the dates, it's, I think, the whole envisioning of what it is. has to be done by the person or group that's going to hold it. But maybe the 2025-11 part is generic, the resolution.
Yeah, the resolution itself, I think, words out really well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we should keep this process moving along as.
Well, yeah.
I
I'm so-
would just add, the whole purpose of the outline, we can just ignore it, is to help us draft the RFP so we get the best possible proposal, so they fully understand what we're asking of them. So if we want to just like burn this, let's do it. The purpose was to launch us as quick as we could to find that person who's going to take us through the process. That's how I view the outline, just a guide.
Mhm.
I agree too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if, to Siri's point, the consultant comes in and be like, we're doing this, they at least know, the flavor of what we're looking for, or the guidelines or whatever, and then they'll get in the specifics of, this is what you should do, and this is exactly how, and blah, blah, blah. But,
Well, in light of those positive comments, is there a motion to
Blah, blah, blah.
approve 2025-11?
I'll second.
I'll move and,
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good, thank you. Passes.
So with that clear direction, you can move forward.
I think so. I think I
We'll
think
get,
so. If not, I will ask.
Yeah.
we'll get the committee
Yep.
together to go through building the RFP then, I believe.
Okay, item number 7 on the, Howard?
Well, I just wanted to encourage the committee then to reach out to people like Bruce and maybe a couple others to, sit in on that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Item number 7 on the agenda, SBDC report and the formal introduction of our new consultant, Pete Mott. Pat?
Sorry, I'm still back in the whole conversation there, trying to figure out what happened. I gave you my report. I'm excited that we have found a great replacement for me. I just want to make sure you all understand the world is safe, because yesterday the SBA told me I had to remove my pronouns from my signature line. So don't anybody worry about the DEI there. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, I'm going to work with Pete over the course of March, and I will be done at the end of March. Pete will be certainly in place and ready to go, and I will be able to help as needed, and so will Northland. I think we're going to be able to put together a pretty good plan as to what the timeline will be as far as who's doing what over the course of the next 60 days or 30 days, and that will be good. And I'd just like Pete to talk to you a little bit about himself and what your background is.
Pete, could
Nice to meet everyone
Pete?
earlier.
could you go to the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you.
I can go to it, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to use it properly. It was nice to meet all of you earlier. My name is Peter Mott, and I am a longtime Minnesotan. I grew up in Minnetonka, and I moved to Cook County about 8 years ago to be the state park ranger for Judge Magny and Cascade River State Park. And a couple of years ago, my parents ran into some illness, and I decided to take that time off and help them out. And just a few months ago, that work was completed, and I was just very fortunate that this opportunity came up at the very same time. I'm very excited to be working with the economic engine of Cook County. And I really like the aspect of small business and local business, because I know how that provides a significant economic impact locally. So I'm very excited to start my work.
Welcome, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, West End Quad Pod, 4 Directions Dwellings in Lutsen. Heidi?
This is just a discussion item. you received a memo from the One Roof Community Housing Executive Director with a request. I am presenting his request to the HRA tomorrow during the HRA regular meeting at 3. And this is the second request that we received from One Roof Community Housing in the last couple months, and so we're just reacting and following up and basically asking the HRA, since they are the housing experts now for the county, to weigh in before the EDA makes any decisions, because the only reason the requests are coming to us is because we, as the EDA, are pretty much the fiscal agent for the money that they receive for the original projects, plural. So I could answer any questions about it.
Did this come before the HRA last month, too?
No, a separate request came to went to the HRA, and that was regarding whether or not the EDA would remove the covenants to allow One Roof Community Housing to sell a piece of property.
Oh, that was the property one.
That's right, yes.
Got it, okay.
Yes.
So this is now a request to loosen up some of the covenants on who it'll rent to.
Yes.
Got it. Does that make sense to everybody?
So, the main idea is on page 45, number 2. That's what's being proposed, that they can use it for seasonal workers.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, originally, we put covenants in there so that there would be 4 workers in Cook County, but, you know, if they're unsuccessful in that, they want to be able to fill a space, and
Right.
and so I think that's a reasonable request, but we're trying to kick that to the HRA to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I just interacting with a little, my partner has Gopher, we do rental for low-income, whatever, workers in the community. It seems highly overpriced for what's available there, so it doesn't surprise me that people that it's targeted at can't do it, because, yeah, the value add isn't there. So I would encourage lowering the rent significantly to try to get somebody in there who meets the criteria, but I don't see any problem with seasonal workers as the renters either. It's also above what people pay for seasonal workers,
Yeah.
right? Usually they're doing like $300 or less a month for a seasonal worker. So you can put 4 people in there maybe, that would be $1,200. It's high, and it's far away, so I don't think it's gonna work, but.
And the HRA will discuss this tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you recall, the EDA, when you were considering last month's request, there was a lot of questions regarding this particular request regarding these reoccurring vacancies in this project. So I just wanted to have it and keep it on the radar of the EDA. You know, it'll be coming back again next month for this one. But it's just something to think about when, you know, the EDA is the applicant for subsidies for workforce housing, that the EDA is ultimately responsible to take care of the covenants or review them and consider amendments and et cetera. It falls on the EDA.
Alex?
This is allowing an employer to sign a lease for X number of months and be responsible for the rent. So it's not necessarily a seasonal worker or 4 that are being allowed to occupy this. An employer is guaranteeing the rent, so and they can't fill it or they can't find employees that want it, they're still on the hook for the rent, right? And it's for 4 of whatever, 16 units, right? So this,
4 of the 6.
right, so this is kind of a experiment, so to speak, on if employers from Grand Marais specifically can provide access to this housing to their employees, right? So the money's there. I mean, the rent's being paid if an employer signs a lease, right? Yeah.
When we built that, that's exactly how it happened. We went out and got quite a few of the businesses in the West End to guarantee 25%, if you remember, Pat, or a good, good percentage of the units were paid, from the businesses in the West End. At that time, I mean, they're all full, but I mean, it was kind of the guarantee that helped get the project forward to have that full occupancy from day one. So,
But I would approve
Yeah.
what's being asked, so.
What would it take for this to fall under the HRA's purview instead of ultimately the EDA? Because that seems more appropriate. I know we own it.
And
Yeah.
get fiscal
We-
agent.
We're tied to it, but
Yeah, I think all the documents are signed by the EDA. I mean, that's kind of, we could make this decision, but I think it's just,
and the next decision, and the next,
yeah, well,
that's, I'm like,
it's
it's,
just, yeah.
Well, yeah, we discussed that, that's a good question, and, one of the options might be the next time we get into a position like this, perhaps there is a memorandum of understanding between ourselves and the HRA that will approve this up front, and then they manage it on a go-forward basis. Because right now, we're tossing it over them each and every time,
Right.
so.
We were both. when we
right,
built this.
exactly,
Yeah.
At
exactly.
that
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
yeah, we were both, yeah.
Okay.
There was no separation.
All right, so we'll hear what the HRA has to say tomorrow. Taking us then to agenda item number 9, which is committee and commissioner reports. Are there any reports to share? Last month, we discussed committee assignments, and we have our newest commissioner, Alex, who has raised his hand generously to be on the grant committee. We keep committee membership to 3. The current grant committee is Shackleton, Anderson, and Clissold. I would suggest that Alex take my place on the grant committee, freeing up more time for this role, and I think providing the grant committee great input as a local business owner. If you're still willing to do that, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we had one other op for him to fill too. Was that?
Was
our
that
HR?
design? Design committee?
Personnel?
Okay.
He can take
No.
my place on the golf committee if he wants. All of a sudden, it's like,
At least you were here when they made these assignments. I wasn't.
So regarding the design committee, that only has 2 currently, is that right?
I already made the decision to
You did.
add,
Alex?
yes,
Congratulations, Alex.
They're on the design committee.
I did ask him
Okay.
briefly this morning, or this afternoon.
It's almost moot because we don't have any more lots to sell,
Right,
hardly.
yeah.
yeah.
Which
You got
brings
an
me
easy
to
one, yeah.
something I'm going to talk about.
Right.
Could I
Commissioner
ask, considering you have a lot more time now that you're off of the grant review committee,
Yes.
we only have 2 on personnel, and
Uh-huh.
I feel like chair might be valuable on the personnel committee.
Well,
Oh, Alex is on personnel, sorry, I'm looking at,
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't want, you mean, you
Design.
guys can, this is the
no,
time, it's
I'm happy to
monopoly.
have, I'm
Yeah.
happy to have Alex on there. I was just looking at the, our packet here, and those are the minutes, not the,
Yeah.
and a shout out to Heidi for making these lovely, helpful binders for us.
That was
Thank
very
you.
nice.
Design, personnel, okay. Are you comfortable being on 3 committees?
Yeah, I'm happy. I think I pointed out to Heidi earlier today is that my desire is to participate in the grant review committee. That's my primary interest, and then I'm happy also to step into any other committee role that
Okay,
the organization might need. So, short answer is yes.
thank you. Okay. Commissioner Mills, you satisfied?
yes, very.
Okay, good. Okay, director report, yes, Heidi. Oh, Howard, I'm sorry.
Well, just to give an update, one of the hats I wear is Cook County Real Estate Fund. We have not closed the bank loan yet, but we have made a down payment to Dynamic Homes, who are gonna build, or are building our building. We're working through all the other processes, and we expect to break ground probably in April. Break it with the dynamite, unfortunately, because it's all rock. But I think the build schedule is April, May, so if all goes according to plan, they'll start delivering in June. And they're all modular, so it goes up pretty fast. So anyway, that's that project.
Where is it?
It's called, we call it the Heights. It's just the side of,
Just up here, right?
just the side of up yonder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
And that's 36 units, and the HRA project is 51 units, so by this time next year, we'll have 81,
And are those also restricted for who can buy them?
Portion.
they're rental, they're rents.
Okay.
So I don't remember what the HRA project is. I think half of our units are reduced income, for income. But they're not cheap. I mean, you can't build anything. So, I mean, your comments about price is noted, but, I mean, they're both the project that our group is building and the HRA project are going to be similarly priced to what we saw on, but maybe nicer
Maybe
units. I'm not
nicer
sure.
and
Yeah.
closer.
Closer, yeah. I mean, they're in town, walkable, so, yep.
Yep, there's 18 that'll be 80% AMI.
View? What percentage of the view is?
The view is, oh, is that the view?
Well, the Heights, no, that's 51 units. What percentage
Yeah.
of 51 is income based? I was just curious.
And is there a 6-month lease or have
For
to
the
get
view, I
a?
don't
Yeah,
have
it's
that
probably-
clear.
I guess even a bigger
Looking for a
percentage.
12-month lease, yeah, yeah.
Great.
And you could be like somebody in town said, well, you're only gonna rent them for a month, a year. I mean, what are they gonna do then? I said, no, it's a renewable 1-year lease, yes.
Yeah, the rents, my understanding, the rents of the Heights for the studio is $13.58. For a 1-bedroom, it's $14.55, and a 2-bedroom is $17.46.
And that's-
And those might change based
Yeah.
But that's not the income adjusted numbers,
Yeah.
so,
Oh, okay.
so that's the sticker
Top.
price.
Bigger price, yeah.
Any other commissioner reports? All right, seeing none, Director.
I'll go as fast as I can because it's getting late. Could I borrow this?
Yeah,
Yeah. So Peter actually had this idea. I just put it together. So I just
Peter.
wanted to tell you what's in there real quick. The first page is EDA specific contact information. You'll see the committee assignments. It's filled in, that's as of today. So hopefully that's correct. If it's not, then let me know. The next page is a listing of all the elected officials in the county, including the township supervisors. The next page is this year's official EDA budget. Then there's the bylaws. Then there is the then there is the organizational chart that my predecessor put together last year. It's just a nice visual to show how the EDA is organized, and including, where Pete falls in as the SBDC consultant. Then there's a kind of an open meeting law for dummies sheet in there, and then, not saying anyone here is a dummy, but that's more for me. And then the next thing in there is the strategic plan, that is already, it started last year. It only goes through 2027, so that's another strategic plan that you're gonna have to update in a couple years. So that's your handbook. If you want anything added to it, let me know. I now have, the EDA now owns a 3-hole punch.
Nice.
Noted. Just to comment on the open meeting law, it's been my training that we're not supposed to communicate to the board as a whole, so when you do a reply all, it's probably not what you should do. You should reply to Heidi. Because we're actually violating open meeting law by replying all, is my understanding. So,
Yeah, and so on that note, we can't vote by email.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, next thing, office space. I was just asking some questions as I do, and noticed that the HRA was spending, like $400 a quarter on office space, to be in our office space, and I learned that's because there was an arrangement between the SBDC and the HRA for the SBDC to use more of the space. So basically, the HRA was getting a huge discount, and the ADA was paying most of the office space. And so basically, we're going to, Peter and I are going to meet with Bill Gabler of the HRA and kind of talk this out and see what's going to work for both organizations to continue to effectively share office space. The next item is regarding the grant guidelines, and I'm trying and I'm hoping to schedule a meeting with the three of you, grant review committee folks, to start looking at the next round of amendments for the guidelines that were created last April. And as you recall, there were no guidelines before last April, so this is from what I was told by former EDA President Steve Serbaugh, the guidelines were meant to be kind of a fluid and ongoing, amendments being made to them to make the program better. So if you haven't gotten back to me on your availability for a grant review committee.
I
Do you
did.
use, use Microsoft, or what's your Outlook or your email rather?
For scheduling meetings? Just Gmail. Yep, through.
I just wondered if you could access my calendar.
Oh, I don't know. Not sure. Okay, and the next item, and this was, it's related to what we talked about as far as the EDA applying for funds and then being on the hook to basically administer or do all the paperwork for those funds. And I just wanted to bring that back to light, that, now that there is an HRA, it'd probably be a really good idea to have some sort of a future memo of understandings of who's going to sign the documents. For instance, Peter and I signed a $1.3 million grant or loan agreement last month for an HRA project. And I also had to sign the, prevailing wage. I had to certify that we are going to make sure that prevailing wages were paid for HRA projects, which is a big deal. Me in the future, as the EDA executive director, I don't know if I want to be signing all those documents for a project that's not an EDA project, et cetera. So maybe just the president will be signing documents in the future, or something like that. But I think there should be some sort of, we're going to discuss this with Bill Gabler of the HRA when we meet on Thursday with him as well. It's just some sort of process, because it is some heavy lifting from the EDA for HRA projects, and maybe there's some way to lessen that burden on the EDA. For future agreements. And then finally, the financials. So in my latest director report, you probably saw I was asking questions about how the financials are done, and I feel like Mark is very, very burdened as a commissioner with the amount of financial work you do for the EDA. Not saying you ever said that, but I see it, and it's a lot. And then there's also the EDA has the Serena doing accounting as well for financials. And so I was just wondering if there was maybe well, I know that there's a need for the finance committee to potentially meet to talk through this more, of who's doing what, and maybe there's some more efficiencies. Maybe Serena doesn't even want to do the accounting anymore. I don't know. So I just wanted to throw that out there to the EDA to see if there was any, history that I'm not aware of, or anything like that. I did request, I have the, basically job description from the EDA's accountant, Serena, of what exactly she does each month, which is a lot as well. So between Mark and Serena, it's, it's also a very, very heavy burden to have. So I don't know if Mark wants to say anything about that.
Well, I don't know, because when I was asked to do this, I didn't know what was expected or not expected, so I just assumed the role and did as much as I could. So it does take a lot of time, especially with a golf course. I think if the golf course sells, the burden will be a lot more manageable, that's for sure. But I get your point with the combination of Serena, who has a full-time job and then has multiple part-time jobs, and she's carrying this load as well. So I think maybe there's a bit of opportunity to revisit this, maybe if there's a professional service that we could inquire about, taking on these responsibilities, so.
That's good to know that. I just thought, coming on too for not that long, I just assumed you were sort of like in the moment trying to get things organized and get everything cleaned up, and then it wouldn't be this effort, but it sounds like it would require that continuously, and that is not a good solution either, I don't think.
Right, I agree.
Years ago, I tried to get the city to take on the accounting, and I got a big fat no on that, as you might imagine. And,
Really? Now you look over here, okay.
Yeah, and also, I think, seems to me that the county, Brady's office could handle this very easily, especially if we don't have the golf course. And Brady has been reluctant, but, as I walk by there seems to be quite a bit of staff involved there, and might be worth another try.
And I just wanted to add too that my final thought is that, so it's been 23 years in working for EDAs, and this is the first time I've ever seen an officer, a treasurer, do what you do, Mark. Usually it's just the whole, on the annual meeting, the commissioner says, yeah, I'll be the treasurer, and it's nothing. There's no work involved at all. And so this is a pretty big deal, I think. And so I just.
He has to follow Scott Harrison.
Yeah.
That's his problem.
So by no means did I want to offend anyone by questioning. I just saw an opportunity that maybe there would be some more efficiencies.
I think that's really good to know, to get that update and know that we should be looking at something different.
Yeah.
Sustainable, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thanks, Heidi. Last item is then adjournment. So is there a motion to adjourn the February regular meeting of the EDA here at 5:23 PM?
So moved.
Motion.
I don't think we have to vote on the
No.
adjournment, right? No, okay. Thank you. Next meeting is March the 18th. Thank you all.
Thank you. I won't be here then.
May as well already be.
Yeah, I have a conference